Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm very excited to have with me Sarena Diamond. And let me tell you about Sarena. Sarena is a multi-dimensional transformation executive with extensive hands-on experience in organizational change management, program and project management, communications, facilitation, and training. Her corporate credentials include Accenture, IBM, and Pepsi-Cola, to name just a few. And her clients range from Fortune 100 and to PE-backed ventures across a wide array of industries. Sarena is a quick study of people, situations, and organizational needs, and she faces challenges with curiosity and confidence, bringing positivity to seemingly insurmountable problems, and is purpose-driven to help teams navigate change effectively. Sarena founded Diamond Solutions Group to partner with leaders who are looking to maximize the transformation, investment, and inspire their talents and teams to achieve great outcomes. Today, we're going to talk about leading through change, how leadership development drives transformation success. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Sarena Diamond.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicki. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is one of my, I guess, my years in the corporate world, the various different corporate offices that I was fortunate to be part of over the 40 years. Change is hard, change is necessary, and change can be fun. And it's all in the mindset.
For sure. And I think it's getting actually harder for leaders because the rate and pace of change in the world around us is continuing to increase. So I do not it's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Yeah, we can get into a little bit of that in a moment. But first, I have two easy questions I always ask. Please tell our guest, where do you live? Where do you call home?
Newly call home the Jersey shore of southern New Jersey, the ocean outside of Long Beach Island.
Nice. And I talked about all these wonderful things that you've accomplished and done, but I'd love for my guests to share their journey, the things that were turning points in their life and their careers that led them to do what they do today. And so talk about the challenges you had to overcome and the opportunities that came from those challenges.
So, and I love that question. Thank you. So as you shared, I started my career at Accenture, and I really had sort of two big chapters in my career. I was doing transformation, business process, systems development kind of work at Accenture and at Pepsi, led some consulting at Hyperion. And then really I did the little pivot that so many people did at the time. I did a short stint at a .com just as the bubble was bursting. That was tremendously fun. And I learned a lot. It was the first really small company, but it taught me a lot. And I went from there to Mellon, and I was in charge of the business unit that was employee ownership. So combining 9/11 and Enron and within a short
Oh,
period of
wow.
time, the employee ownership business was really underwater. So my choices were Pittsburgh or a package at the time. I opted actually for the package and started my second chapter in my career because I was at that time, in addition to all of the things that were happening professionally, I was about to become a single parent.
Oh,
Did not
wow.
did not know it in full, but learned it quickly. So I started my second real big chapter in my career, which was my IBM career. And I learned so much during those 18 years actually that I was at IBM around business transformation and things that I, in some cases, took for granted, the kinds of oxygen that you do when you are solely focused on helping teams change, helping clients change, helping processes get better, optimized,
Yeah.
or what have you. And then IBM and Kyndryl decided to spin off. And at the time, I was a shared service over both of those business units. So I knew I wanted to stay with organizational change. And I met a leader at a company that was wonderful, right? Interviewed me in a very charismatic way, and I decided that I was going to take door number three, leaving IBM with early retirement, and went to work for Mercer for about 6 months, and then went out on my own, like so many people, not by my choice, but for lots of really good reasons. The universe was looking out for me and decided that I needed a guilty severance package that would allow me to float into financially into finding an entrepreneurship journey that has been wonderful. 3.5, yeah, a little over 3.5 years. I wouldn't go back for anything. I love being able to help leaders in a wide variety of organizations really truly find their capability and their legs around adopting change or inspiring change in their teams. And most recently, I have started down the Vistage speaking path to make more impact. You can only get to so many leaders when you're a solopreneur. But this
Yeah.
way I can help even more leaders. So between podcasting and public speaking on top of consulting in organizations, I am absolutely loving this third chapter of my career. And I don't ever intend to retire.
That's what I decided to. 67 and busy as always.
Oh, good. Well, when you look as young as you, who would ever guess that you should retire anyway? So
I have an anti-aging business too, and so that
that
is
works. It's
helpful.
working. It's
That
clearly.
it does work awesomely. All right, so what exactly is organizational change management? For those that may not know, for me, I being a project manager, process manager, I am fully aware, but not everybody does know. So how does it compare to project and program management?
It's really great that you asked that because that's exactly where so many people get hung up, right? They think about
Yeah.
project, program, which is, I always say, that's like the spreadsheet and the work plan and the meetings, right? But organizational change management is really when you take the perspective of the human beings. So what needs to change? What is the vision of what that change is, and how do we communicate that? How do we engage not just the people that need to do something differently, but also the stakeholders around those people
Mm.
so that they can understand that? A big piece of organizational change is really around the communications, right? Is how are we
Yeah,
talking about the
absolutely.
communications? But when I ultimately, at the end of the day, I always say, if you've gotten people past the chasm of, I don't know what this is, I don't know why it has to happen, I don't know, I don't understand where I fit, and they can actually see themselves in the results, that's how you drive adoption. And that's what organizational
Yeah.
change really is. It's because project management, nobody really cares in project management if anything is adopted or anything changes. It just cares that you got to the deadline and that you hit budget, right? It's time and
That's
budget.
right. That's
And
right.
that's an important thing. I'm not saying that's not important, but I used to say to people, it's the equivalent. I said, don't use the word deployment because deployment is like wiring the new construction house for electricity. But if you never plug anything into an outlet, or put a light bulb in a fixture, you have no illumination anyway. And that's really
Yeah.
the difference. And people can get that, right? They can understand project management versus organizational change.
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't make any difference what size business you have. It it is necessary, a necessary part of it. And I love that you talked about the people. One of the things when I was a project manager, why I added process management to my toolbox, if you will, is that as I was going through, especially the informational phase of a project, I would sit down and sometimes painstakingly have to go through processes with people because people do things, especially over time, over years, and they don't realize some of the things that they do until you actually have them write it down.
For
And
sure.
and that's where some of the active listening is so important, and body language, being able to read body language really can help you know when to stop and dig deeper and ask more questions. And I think if you do a better job at that, then that's helps you in the communication part that you talked about.
For
This
sure.
is, oh yeah, we need to talk about this more extensively. We need to really dig deeper in this, or make sure that our communications are really consistent and persistent in this. And I think people, as you said, they just push something out and figured, the audience will figure it out. They'll,
Right. I said it once. I sent an email. We had a town hall,
I know,
right?
what the heck?
I had a conversation with a client earlier this week just about the difference between, town halls and or all hands meetings where everyone is so enthusiastic when, your COO gets up and talks about some innovative change and truly enthusiastic about it. But then you get back to your office or you get back to your Zoom call with your boss, and the first question is, so what does that mean to us? How do we
Hmm.
and when the leader, the next immediate manager, second line, what have you, can't explain it further, you have a huge problem. I was
Hmm.
actually sharing with this leader about the power of cascades, and that communication cascades are crucially important to helping
Hmm.
your organization
Yeah.
come along with you. And so it was funny because that ended up being, I was talking about it on LinkedIn. It was all of my week has been focused for some reason on the cascading part, the localizing
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
And, I learned that actually at IBM, we were rolling out some new agile ways of working. And I learned it, quote, the hard way. We were trying to do something with the team in Japan. The people in Japan, the leadership, almost all spoke English fairly well, but the work teams that we were working with did not have as much confidence in their English language. So every 1 hour training session we would run, we actually scheduled for 90 minutes and had a translator for everything that we would on the US side would
Yeah.
say. And people got that. And I said that it's no different. When you're talking about a communication cascade, a manager needs to be able to translate for their team. How does this impact us? What does this mean? That's where you know that you're actually getting people to buy in because you're the day-to-day manager is
Hmm.
actually able to support the change and the conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Those are two really good points. First, making sure that that frontline person knows what's going on, because then, that is a trust issue that could come up, and confidence issue that could come up, and all those things. But the second piece is that global aspect. And most of, business today, especially as entrepreneurs, but the large companies that you and I both worked with, have a global aspect, and culture changes and how you message things. It's the core message is there, but you have to be able to have it resonate with that local audience so they get it, they understand it. And sometimes we don't do such a great job at that.
right. Well, one of the things that I often say to leaders if they're thinking that they've communicated enough, and we always start with communication, right? I mean, there's so much of organizational change, but I will say, give me some examples of what you've already communicated. Show me some examples of the communication plan for something that was very
A
successful.
what? A
Yeah,
what?
I know. What's really funny is that's usually the reaction I get. They're like, well,
Oh,
we
there's a
sent an
plan.
email. That's a plan. We have a plan. But it's very interesting because when it's not hard to overcome. And I love the fact that once any leader starts to think about communication as their job, and I have a whole workshop that I teach that's called Communication is Leadership and Leadership is Communication. And
That's
I
right.
have a little graphic that merges the words together and like makes it all kind of fun. But the whole concept is if you're not communicating to the point where the thought of doing it one more time makes you sort of want to roll your eyes in the back of your head, you haven't done it
It's
enough.
not enough.
Right. And that's when you know you're enough, right? Is the, oh no, not
Hmm.
again. We're going to have to say this again. Okay.
Yeah, you will.
You
And
will.
it always amazes me because, I'm a Toastmaster and I'm actually running for an international director position. And my theme of my campaign is leading change, lifting voices. And it's because you have to ask a lot of questions in a change.
I love that.
And you really have to allow people then to talk and understand that sometimes they are not going to like what you say and sometimes they're not going to understand what you say, and you really have to, in that communication plan,
Right.
start to think about all those things like what if, and
Right.
have work out scenarios so that you have a one message really that can be filtered down through the cascade as you mentioned.
Right. Yeah, I have a part of my Vistage workshop that I share. I actually have a change story and a worksheet that people work through to map out all those kinds of questions that would
Yeah.
allow to you to really build a story around what it is that you're trying to change, and then a series of questions that will allow you to guide and coach your teams through those changes. Because it really does start with saying it, but then being curious as to how did it land, right? You learn
Yeah.
nothing from speaking, you learn everything from listening. And when you hear how it landed, then you can refine, then you can, adjust how you're what you're saying and that.
Yeah. And you can roll out a system or um, application or whatnot to your team to make their lives easier, to make them more educated, more informed, or whatnot. But you have to understand that each of those individuals has a different learning style. And so just because you think this is better than sliced bread doesn't mean that you just roll it out. I
Right.
love whenever I would do a project and I would have the team spend time just going through, navigating, touring the site, having a question answer period, as you said, until you're sick of doing it, just so you, because things will be discovered that you, as the person that was closest to it, might not have even thought about,
Right. Right.
and
Well, and you may have thought about it, but you thought about it months ago when you were first thinking about the change. One of the things that I say to leaders all the time is think about something that's really important to you to see change in your organization. An example, right? Oh, we're going to acquire a small competitor. How long have you been thinking about that? Oh my gosh, since, 3 years I've been thinking about it. I've been worrying about it. I've been thinking about it. I've been playing it over in my head. Great. And now you sent an email and you expect everybody to get on board with one email
yeah,
or even one really, really impassioned conversation in an all hands meeting. It really does take time to be able to embrace changes and help when leaders get better at helping their teams come along for the ride with them, what they see is so much more impactful when everybody
mm,
is in the boat and figure out the path and the journey and together.
yeah, for
Because let's be
sure.
clear, the the do it because I said so hasn't worked in a
It
very long
doesn't.
time.
No. No, it doesn't. My leadership training I do is leading with the heart, the head, and the hands. And that first part, the heart, is really using your emotional intelligence and empathy to think about, how would I feel if this was thrown at me or done to me or whatnot. And then you can start to connect them to the vision because your messaging, your communication is aligned with what matters to them because they don't care about anybody but them. And as
Correct.
long as you remember that, then you're going to be better. What
Fantastic.
are the common mistakes that they're making when they're implementing change?
I am seeing the combination of certainly understanding the why, right? Making sure that the purpose is very
Yeah.
clear and it's understood. And that you address that certainly with communication, but you have to be more patient than you think because, as you said, people change at different paces and different rates and different learning styles, different adoption styles. And so I often say to people, once you've expressed your version of the why, what's the purpose for what we're doing? Why is it so important? Pause and then review any of these questions. I have a whole page of here's the questions that will help you build belief. And they're just really coaching questions. But it's funny because sometimes I have leaders that will look at these questions and say, but I just told them so whatever. And I said, what you're asking isn't for them to reflect back what you told them. You're asking, how did it land? How did they hear it? What did they hear?
Yeah.
What did they anticipate? I always end up with leaders that say, yeah, and then I've got my 40 plus year tenured employees that'll never do something different, right? They're the ones that are going to say, I've been doing it this way since whatever. And I often say, and those people have the most experience around your organization. They have the most opportunity to be influential. And so when they can see that
Yeah,
you
that's right.
trust and respect all the time and energy that they have given into the organization and they buy into the change, you are golden. So
Yeah.
let's talk about what that looks like for people. And it's funny because I've had some leaders that they just want to just make them do it. Like just tell them to do it. And I've said, you don't have teenagers, do you? Right. And it's
Mm-mm.
very
That's
clear.
exactly right.
It's a,
Or
right,
3-year-olds. Yeah.
correct. Right. Right. But it is really impressive when you see a leader, the light bulb goes on and they hadn't considered they just saw this blockage, this roadblock of people that are going to just be curmudgeons, right? They're going to just never,
Yeah.
no matter what I say. And when they recognize that there's an opportunity there to really influence not only that person, but have that person influence the change, the light bulb goes on for the leaders. Usually it's through the coaching questions that I will do with them. And I'm not a coach. I'll give them coaching questions so they can coach their people. But I will
Hmm.
suggest and we'll go through some of the questions together. And at every single time, somebody will go, oh, they'll get to one and they'll say, this one will work. Like they know the
Hmm.
people well enough to know which
Yeah.
questions are going to resonate. Sometimes it's what do you anticipate is going to be bad? What could go wrong here? What
Yeah.
could derail us from succeeding? And those are the kinds of things that those experiences give the leaders more confidence to not brute force the change through, but to graciously move through the change, and they
Yeah.
build adoption, they build enthusiasm from their teams. And I will tell you, I've been doing this sadly a very, very long time. I've seen lots of ways that change works. I've seen so many ways that it doesn't sustain. It may go
That's
through,
right.
right? You hit the timeline, but it doesn't
Hmm.
stick because you haven't really built belief in the systems from the beginning. You haven't
That's
enabled
right.
new behaviors. But when you follow these three steps that I always talk about, sustain change happens every time. It and
Yeah.
it it's I can't explain it other than it's not just you. It's not the Sarena party telling you what the new way of working is going to be. Everybody starts to feel it. They understand why we're doing it and they believe in
Hmm.
it. There's no reason for them not to because they've already come to the idea and understanding on their own.
Yeah. So true. So you made the change. How do you measure the impact of the change?
Well, I always help the team say with that the very old start begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey. It's my favorite
Hmm.
one to say. So what happens when we're successful? I never say if, right? In this case, I never say if. When we're successful, what will it look like? How will we
Hmm.
know this has made a difference? And in some cases, that thought process is so important because if you don't put some effort into figuring out how will we know when we're succeeding, we won't know if we're off the rails a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's usually I get called in because they haven't thought about what success was going to look like. They just said, we're going to implement this system, or we're all going to go to the same accounting process. Post merger, we're going to all follow the same steps. And the amount of human glue that requires that organization to stick things together is really huge. But I also do say to people, you'll know if you're off if you've thought about what success looks like. So making sure that you're measuring the things that matter. It's not about cycle time. It may be in the short period, but it's in some cases it's the what does it matter. For a long time at IBM, I ran workforce management, and that is
Mm-hmm.
the placement of 240,000 consultants in client sites. And so staffing at the right time was really crucially
Mm-hmm.
important, making sure that clients were served. And people wouldn't necessarily find those metrics to be it's a time to staffing. And you'll see, those metrics. But it was also about the right person, not just having
Yeah.
a button to see, right? And making sure that
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of metrics that matter to the client, I would ask how long, was the client engagement? How long were they actually successful there? Did we see that we were not just putting them fast, but putting them and they were able to sustain? They were
Right.
generating
Right.
the satisfaction out of the client that we expected.
Mm-hmm. Teach them to fish.
For sure.
So, what role does organizational culture play in delivering transformational change? Um, sometimes I think that really also is tied to the communication all the time. That's tied to the communication. So let's talk about organizational culture.
You know what? It is so important for leaders to be really crystal clear on what their culture truly is, not the core values they put on their website, not what they want it to be within the C-suite, because lots of times that's delusional, right? There's usually trust is always the word in your corporate culture. We have a high trust. Well, does everyone feel that? How
Mm,
is it that you're seeing that from an organizational proof points? Where is that? And lots of times I go to this one simple question is how is your organization, how patient are they with mistakes? And you
yeah.
can tell a lot about an organization culture by how are mistakes treated. And it's not, oh, well, we're accepting of mistakes. We want people to come forward. It's not about what the leaders want. Are the people that are making the mistakes seeing those as learning opportunities? Are they
Hmm.
forthcoming with, hey, this happened, this is what we're doing about it, can you help me understand how to avoid this in the future? Right?
Yeah.
It really truly is about how is it that you're treating things when they don't go well? Because let's be clear, culture is lovely when everything's going great, right?
Yeah.
Right?
But
It's always that what it really is when things aren't going well.
yeah, that's a really important point. Well, you and I have to have a second episode on this because I think we could chat for another day on this. But time has run out and it's time for us to share the slide. If out there, if you really loved what Sarena said and think, oh my God, we need you so badly, I have a slide that has her contact information that you can check out our website and her social media platforms to DM her or chat with her. So let me share that slide. The website is Diamond Solutions Group LLC, Diamond Solutions Group LLC.com. Facebook is her name, Sarena, Sarena dot Diamond 9, the number 9. LinkedIn is her name again, Sarena dash Diamond. Instagram is Sarena Diamond, all one word. I'll turn it over to Sarena. She's going to share with you what she puts out there on her website as well as where she spends the most time in social media.
So for me, and I share this actually openly, the best place to find me is LinkedIn because if you spell my name the way I always used to say, if you spell my name correctly, the way my mom intended, not the way Serena Williams' mom intended hers. But if you spell my name Sarena and then Diamond like the stone, I am the only Serena Diamond on LinkedIn.
Ah,
I
super.
know. How cool is that, right? I figured it
I
out once.
know.
I thought this can't be right. Now, spelled wrong, there's plenty of us. There's plenty of Serena Diamond spelled other ways, but 1.5 billion people on LinkedIn, and I'm the only Serena Diamond spelled properly. So
Pretty cool.
easy to
Pretty
find
cool.
me. Easy to find.
Serena, thanks for taking time today to chat and really share your wisdom, your guidance, and maybe open up some opportunities for discussion for organizations out there, groups, entrepreneurs who think, oh, I think I need to talk to somebody about organizational change management.
Thank you so much, Vicki. It's been a pleasure.
As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.